Waited over 10 years for the sequel, and what was the outcome? Blech.
In 2004, we got one of the best animated superhero films of all time. Disney Pixar's The Incredibles.
So you'd think years later, after much rumors that there'd be a second movie, that it'd get the sequel that it deserved. But did it? Not at all.
Okay, so the whole point of the first movie is that the past learned that working together as a family, they could overcome all obstacles and bring back a good name to the superheroes. Well, at the start of the second movie, they kind of just tossed that all into the bin.
The second movie starts on the complete opposite end. Well, actually, it starts at the end of the first movie, right where we were left off. But the thing is, instead of them working together like they, I'm gonna say, tricked us into believing, the parents tell the kids to just stay behind while they go and fight. Where was that big, heroic build-up they had at the end of the first movie?
And it wasn't like they tried to work together as a family and then it kind of fell apart. It was sort of like, yes, we're gonna do it together.
Watch after Jack. But I thought we were gonna go.
You heard your mother.
I would have preferred if they were actually fighting together at the start and then things were going wrong. Then they tell them to stay with the kids.
Like, that's just normal parenting.
And let's not forget the moment when Tony sees Violet's true identity immediately after she chucked a fit. This was not even an hour after he asked her out. I would have loved if they played on that. That would have been a good subplot for the movie. And how does he forget? By erasing his memory. Oddly, the way that they wrote that in, it was so sloppy, because if you have watched the short films, you knew that whole start thing, word for word, was from the Jack short film. So to start the movie off, a movie that you've been waiting 10 years in the making, with something you've already seen before, you could already tell that this wasn't going to be a good movie.
It was same words and all. Continuing on, the story starts off with the superheroes becoming a nuisance yet again because of all the destruction they left after trying to defeat the Underminer, which, let's be honest, I always try and wonder that in superhero movies where the citizens are just like, oh, all this destruction, we'll clean it up, it won't be expensive.
But see, they already addressed sort of that stuff, the wreckage that superheroes caused in the first movie, so why bring that up again?
Yeah, so basically these other two people come into the mix, a guy named Winston and his sister Evelyn, who suddenly want to bring the superheroes back into the limelight. But get this, they just want Elastigirl,
leaving Bob Parr to take care of the kids.
So kind of like a stay-at-home dad sort of thing.
But again, the whole point of the movie is that he didn't like being the stay-at-home dad. He wanted to be the superhero. So they kind of just redid what they did in the first movie with Elastigirl being the hero again. Shouldn't Bob have been the one who was in the limelight because he was the one who wanted to be the superhero?
Yeah, and
I know that was the point of the tension in the story, but still, it just sort of felt like, I've given you a heroic arc, but I'm just gonna stuff you in this box. I don't know if it was supposed to be that Elastigirl was supposed to be that female role model character for this movie, but the whole point of the first movie is that it was never about that. It was about working together as a family.
And even in the first one, like, yeah, each of them had their own segments of independence, which was great. But for some reason in this movie, it was all revolved around her and everyone was pretty separate from one another. And
also the vibe was just so different from the first one. I mean, the first one was action-packed and realistic and always kept you on your toes, and it felt like a real-life superhero movie. But the second one had none of those feels. In fact, when we were watching it, we were like, is this even the sequel to the same movie? Even the villain was predictable. I knew it from the moment she walked through the door. I mean, literally walked through the door. I knew that she was the villain.
And the whole reason why she was the villain was pretty pointless.
It was all because her dad tried to call a superhero and he didn't get to pick up the phone and he was killed in the process. I mean, not all superheroes can always get to each beckoning call. It's impossible.
Unlike Syndrome, who actually had like a psychopathic mind and had revenge bubbling in his heart
for many, many years.
In all honesty, we probably would have preferred if this sequel was maybe a year later in the movie.
Not straight away like they did in the first movie. That was the first turn off.
And maybe they could have been struggling with their just normal life, trying to juggle both worlds. Or maybe they could have like recruited people that had powers and they didn't know it and they had to like train them up and get more heroes going in the world.
I would have preferred that. Basically anything besides what we already got.
Yeah. They had 10 years to get that plot right, and even so, what they gave us just wasn't lived up to what we would have wanted.
So what did you think of Incredibles 2? Do you prefer the first one better than the second, or do you think that they're both great movies?
Do you think it lived up to the expectation it set 10 years before?
Let us know down in the comments. But until then, we'll see you in our next video.
Bye!